The popular uprising known as the Arab Spring forced rulers from their positions across the Arab world last year. The movement saw an overthrow of Egyptian President Hosni Mubarak following a predominantly peaceful campaign of marches and civil disobedience. But the initial elation of the uprising has soured. Islamist Mohamed Morsi won the presidential election in June and recently issued decrees giving him near absolute powers and immunity from the courts. Professor Robert Patman joins us with his analysis of the situation. Good evening.
Good evening, Rebecca.
Tell us a little bit about what's going on at the moment. What is Morsi doing?
Well, I think Egypt is facing a major political crisis with the society increasingly polarised by the actions of President Morsi. On the 22nd of November, he passed a decree which effectively placed himself above the law and meant that any actions were above any scrutiny by Egypt's judges. Now, in addition, as well as a power grab, within a matter of days, he rushed through a new draft constitution. And this has outraged many Egyptians because minorities such as Christians, women, liberal groups have been excluded, and they take serious issue with the draft constitution. What is more, a lot of Egypt's lawyers have taken strong exception and have protested against the draft constitution. Now, President Morsi has said that he will relinquish the powers that he's grabbed after there's been a referendum on the constitution on the 15th of December. But of course opposition groups say, well, the damage will be done by then. The Islamist principles will be enshrined in this new constitution, and in their view that discriminates both against women and against other minority groups.
And the President does have some concerted opposition from the judiciary.
He does, although there are signs the judiciary is beginning to split. There's two organisations which are very influential in Egypt. One is the Judges Club, which have said that they are going to boycott the supervision of the referendum, which is the traditional role of judicial officers in Egypt. But in the last 24 hours or so, the Judicial Council, the Supreme Judicial Council, said they will, in fact, participate in the supervision of the referendum. So there's a division opening up within legal circles, but it's a very serious situation. And on top of this, you have mass protests. 200,000 people went to Tahrir Square in the centre of Cairo on the 27th of November, 200,000 to protest against President Morsi's power grab, as they call it, and also again on the 30th of November. And there have been sort of counter demonstrations by Islamist supporters of President Morsi. So I suppose the fear is that the country may be teetering on the brink of civil conflict. Once again.
The situation has overtones of Animal Farm. Why do elected figures become dictators so quickly?
Well, I think one part of the answer, Rebecca, is that we're going from a society which has been ruled by a dictator, Mr. Mubarak, for a long time, and you can't instill a culture of a democracy overnight. And so the norms of seizing power may still be deeply ingrained. And the thing is that Egypt is a very important player in the Middle East. It's a key Arab state, and I think many commentators and observers outside the Middle East are hoping that it will in fact resume its transition towards democracy and not get derailed by an attempt to seize power in this way.
What is happening in other countries that are caught up in the Arab Spring?
Well, the other countries such as Tunisia, they saw the demise of a dictatorship, and they seem to be moving towards a reasonably I was going to say firmly established, I would say reasonably established fledgling democracy. Libya has experienced problems, as we've seen, with the American embassy overran in Benghazi and 4 American diplomats called. So many of these societies are undergoing a painful transition away from dictatorship towards halting steps towards democracy. But obviously, if Egypt was to plunge into chaos, that could have ramifications not just for the countries which have been affected by the Arab awakening or the Arab Spring, but other countries in the neighbourhood, such as Lebanon, etc., etc. So there's a lot at stake here.
This change to the constitution that Morsi's trying to push through, what are your feelings on why he's done that?
Because he is a representative of the Muslim Brotherhood, which is for a long time an underground Islamist group. Now, President Morsi was at pains to stress that he's committed to democracy and that he will relinquish these powers. But opposition forces to his rule worry that there's no constitutional guarantee, for example, against to protect women against gender discrimination or any other group against gender discrimination, and they worry that the rights of Christians, there's quite a sizable Christian minority in Egypt, will not be protected. So there's a fear that this may be a stalking horse to establish an authoritarian Islamist regime.
Professor Robert Patman from the University of Otago, thanks for your time.
Thank you.